Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, let's dive in. If you're trying to study or, learn a new skill or just grapple with some complex idea in this crazy modern world, well, you know the struggle, that battle for focus. It feels constant. We're always fighting that urge to check something, click something else, switch tasks. So today we're going to cut through all that noise. This deep dive is basically your shortcut to mastering concentration. Think of it as a targeted guide packed with science-backed strategies. It's really designed to help you, the listener, move past that feeling of information overload and actually fundamentally improve how efficiently you learn.
Yeah, and the goal here isn't just about forcing yourself to sit still. It's really about efficiency and retention. When we talk concentration, what we really mean is channeling your mental energy toward a single task. And the benefit, it's pretty immediate. You study faster, right? You stop that awful habit of rereading the same page over and over.
Yes, the worst.
Exactly. And ultimately, you build real confidence in your ability to actually master stuff. Complex subjects become less daunting, but focus isn't just a switch you flip on or off.
Yeah.
It's a whole system. So our approach today has to be holistic. We're looking at four critical pillars for getting maximum concentration. That's your physical health, your study environment, the external stuff, how you manage your time and distractions, and then finally, training your own mind, the internal game.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with maybe the most foundational bit, the physical side. Sounds kind of basic, maybe boring even, but it's crucial, right? You can't expect your brain to perform at its peak if, the basic maintenance isn't there. Let's start with the big one, sleep. Everyone sacrifices it. Why is that magic number, 7 to 9 hours, so non-negotiable if you're serious about studying?
Well, it goes way beyond just feeling awake. What's really fascinating, and maybe not everyone knows this, is that sleep is prime time for memory consolidation. While you're sleeping, your brain is literally washing itself out. There's this thing called the glymphatic system. It clears out metabolic waste.
Okay.
And crucially, it's moving information from your short-term memory that's in the hippocampus into long-term storage out in the cortex.
Yeah.
So if you cut your sleep short, you basically interrupt that whole transfer process.
Wow. So if I pull an all-nighter to cram, I'm not just going to be tired the next day.
Yeah.
But the actual learning I thought I did is physically less likely to even stick.
Precisely. Yeah, you got it. And the specifics, they're pretty strict for a reason. Maintain a consistent bedtime and wake time.
Yeah.
That really helps regulate your body's natural clock, the circadian rhythm. And yes, definitely ditch the screens, phone, tablet, laptop for a good 30 to 60 minutes before bed. That blue light seriously messes with melatonin production.
Right, tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime.
Exactly. It just sabotages your ability to wind down naturally. Make sure the room is dark, quiet, cool, all that good stuff. Maybe read a real book, meditate a bit, do some light stretching.
Okay, so once we're hopefully awake and reasonably rested, we need fuel and movement. Let's talk exercise. Most people think, physical fitness. But what's the specific link, that insightful connection between even just a brief workout and getting immediate mental clarity?
This is where it gets really cool, I think. Exercise, even just some light cardio, it immediately boosts blood flow. More blood means more oxygen, more nutrients getting to the brain. That's good. But even more specifically, it triggers the release of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
It's BNF, okay.
Think of BDNF as like fertilizer for your brain cells. Seriously. Yeah. It helps grow new neurons. That's neurogenesis. And it strengthens the connections you already have.
So moving for just 15 or 30 minutes isn't just a physical break. It's like I'm chemically optimizing my brain for the next study chunk.
Absolutely, you nailed it. And it doesn't have to be some intense gym session either. Even just stretching or a brisk walk, maybe some simple bodyweight exercises during a study break, that's enough to give your BDNF levels a little boost and kind of interrupt that mental fatigue setting in.
Okay, that's a really tangible motivator. I like that. But let's talk fuel. We all know we shouldn't live on junk food, but for someone needing that maximum sustained focus, what are the top foods? What should we actually be grabbing and why do they work?
Right. We need good building blocks and, crucially, sustained energy release. Forget the quick fixes. You want complex carbohydrates. Think whole grains, veggies for that slow, steady glucose release. Glucose is the brain's main fuel, right? And healthy fats are vital. Your brain is about 60% fat, so things like omega-3s, you find those in fatty fish, nuts like walnuts, seeds like chia, and flax. They're essential structural materials. They literally help your neurons communicate better. Yeah. Other good ones. Berries packed with antioxidants. Leafy greens, avocados, eggs. Good stuff.
And the warning, the things to definitely avoid. Big warning is stay hydrated. Water is key, and seriously minimize the sugar bombs and those highly caffeinated energy drinks.
Sure, you get that quick spike, that rush
Yeah, feels good for a minute.
for a minute. But it's because glucose is flooding your system too fast. Then insulin kicks in hard to deal with it, and boom, the crash. That focus-crushing trough, you feel sluggish, foggy, and the mental effort just to get back to where you were before the crash, it's enormous. Stick to water, maybe some tea, and those whole foods.
Okay, so we've optimized the machine, fueled it right. The next logical step seems to be optimizing the environment where the machine has to work. Let's shift to segment 2, controlling the external world. Because your surroundings, if you let them, they will actively sabotage all that internal work we're about to discuss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your environment acts as a really powerful cue. When you set up a dedicated space, keep it clean. You're basically programming your brain. It's like every time you sit down there, your brain gets this signal. Okay, this is the focus zone. This is where work happens, not scrolling, not napping.
Right. So that means things like making sure the lighting's good, not too harsh, not too dim, using a comfortable chair, the same desk maybe, and critically keeping it tidy. I've heard that visual clutter translates directly into mental clutter. Is that fair?
That's totally fair. It absolutely does. Your brain has to process everything in its visual field, so the less irrelevant stuff there is, the less processing power gets wasted.
Okay, what about sound? Auditory clutter. Should we aim for total silence, or can things like noise-canceling headphones or certain music actually help?
That one.
Yeah.
It often comes down to personal preference, honestly. But generally, what seems to work best for most people is consistent, predictable sound. Sometimes complete silence can actually make you more aware of tiny distracting noises like the fridge humming or someone walking upstairs.
Yeah, I find that sometimes.
So things like instrumental music, classical, ambient, lo-fi beats, whatever works for you, or nature sounds, even white noise. Especially stuff without complex lyrics that your brain might try to follow that can create a kind of auditory buffer. It masks those sudden jarring noises. Noise-canceling headphones are great for that too, obviously.
Okay, let's tackle the elephant in the room. Distractions. Specifically the phone. We all know we shouldn't check it constantly, but what's the actual cost when we do? Give us the deep dive take. Why is that one quick glance so incredibly deadly for focus?
Oh, the cost of context switching. It's
Yeah.
astronomical. And people just don't realize it. When you interrupt yourself from a complex task, like really digging into study material just to check a text or a notification, your brain hasn't just lost the 3 seconds it took you to read the message. Not even close. It has to completely unload the complex mental model it had built up for your studying, and then load up a totally different one, like the social context model for that text message. Then, when you try to go back, it has to reload the study model all over again. And studies show it can take, get this, up to 20 minutes just to get back to the same level of deep focus you had right before that interruption.
20 minutes. Seriously. Just from one glance.
20 minutes. That single quick check costs you way, way more time and cognitive energy than you ever imagined.
Wow. Okay, that's actually a huge deterrent when you put it like that. But how do we enforce this? It sounds simple, put the phone in another room, but that habit loop is so strong, isn't it?
It is strong. So the enforcement needs to be both physical and maybe technological. Step 1 is definitely physical. Move the phone. Another room is best. If not, at least put it in a drawer somewhere you can't see it. But then, yeah, use technology against itself. There are great website blockers out there, things like Cold Turkey, Freedom, Focus Me.
I've heard of those.
They literally block the distracting sites and apps during your set study times. It takes the willpower factor out of it, remove the temptation right when you need to focus, and, just telling family or roommates, hey, I'm studying from 2 to 4, please don't interrupt unless it's an emergency. Setting those boundaries helps too. Avoid multitasking at all costs.
Setting those boundaries, that structure, it leads perfectly into time management, doesn't it? Because structure helps prevent burnout and sustain that focus over time. And this is where something like the Pomodoro Technique really shines. But for listeners who might already know the basic rhythm, like 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, can you explain why that specific structure works so well? What's happening neurologically?
Yeah, it's brilliant in its simplicity, but there's solid reasoning behind it. Our brains, they just aren't built for like 8 hours of continuous high-intensity focus. Attention spans naturally fluctuate. Pomodoro respects that limitation. It basically forces you to work with your brain's natural rhythm, not against it. That 25-minute sprint. It's generally long enough to get into a state of deep focus or flow without totally exhausting your cognitive resources.
Okay.
And then that short 5-minute break. It's crucial. It acts as a psychological reward, first off.
Yeah.
But it also gives your executive functions, the parts of your brain managing attention and control, a chance to just reset,
Yeah.
recharge a little bit. It turns what feels like a daunting marathon into a series of manageable, intense sprints. And the longer break after 4 cycles prevents deeper fatigue.
Got it. So the consistent routine builds the discipline muscle, and those built-in breaks prevent us from constantly hitting that awful 20-minute focus recovery debt we just talked about.
Precisely. You got it. Consistency is really the key there. All right, so if the body is fueled and rested, and the external environment is controlled and structured, now we got to move inward. Segment 3, training the mind itself.
How do we actually quiet that internal chaos, the mind wandering, the anxieties?
Yeah, this is where practices like mindfulness and meditation come in. A lot of concentration struggles actually stem from an overactive DMN, the default mode network.
Default mode network. Okay, what's that?
It's basically the part of your brain that lights up when you're not focused on a specific external task. It handles stuff like, mind wandering, thinking about the past, planning the future, worrying, internal chatter.
Okay, the autopilot thinking.
Exactly. And meditation is essentially the practice of noticing when your mind has wandered into that DMN activity and gently, non-judgmentally, bringing it back to a chosen point of focus, like your breath.
So the goal isn't necessarily to empty the mind, which sounds impossible.
Right, it's impossible and not the point. The goal is to observe the thoughts without getting swept away by them, to build the muscle of attention control.
Okay, so for someone listening who's maybe never meditated, what's the most actionable first step? Like, what can they do today?
Start really small. Seriously, 5 or 10 minutes a day is plenty when you're beginning. The simplest way is just to focus on your breath, find a quiet place, sit comfortably, and just pay attention to the sensation of the air coming in through your nose and going back out. Your mind will wander, guaranteed. That's normal. The practice isn't about not wandering, it's about noticing you've wandered and gently escorting your attention back to the breath, again and again.
Okay. There are great guided meditation apps too. Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, they have beginner courses that walk you right through it. Or you could try a simple body scan. Just systematically bringing your awareness to different parts of your body, noticing sensations without judging them. It anchors you in the present moment. That makes sense for managing the random mind wandering. But what about that other kind of internal noise? The negative self-talk, that inner critic that says, I can't do this, or I'm not smart enough, or this is too hard. That feels like its own massive block to concentration.
Oh, absolutely. That internal chatter, it generates a huge amount of unproductive stress and anxiety, which directly inhibits focus. This is where things like positive thinking and affirmations can actually be useful cognitive tools. It's not just about, motivational posters on the wall.
Right.
You're actively working to counteract those ingrained and negative thought patterns. You're intentionally replacing cognitive distortions, those unhelpful thoughts, with more constructive ones.
Okay, but what if? What if I say an affirmation like, I am focused, but I don't genuinely believe it in that moment? Does it still, work?
That's a great question. And yes, it can still work, because the primary function here is interrupting the negative loop. Even if it feels a bit forced at first, by stating the positive intention, saying it aloud, or writing it down before you start studying, you're consciously setting a different direction for your thoughts. Try simple ones. I am focused and ready to learn. Or, I believe in my ability to understand this material. You're giving your brain a clear, positive working hypothesis, and that alone can reduce the anxiety that often suffocates focus.
Okay, interrupting the negative pathway. I like that framing. Finally, let's spend a bit more time on active learning strategies. You mentioned this is crucial. It feels like the biggest mistake people make when studying is just passively reading or highlighting, right? And then wondering why nothing's stuck. Why is active engagement so much more effective? Beyond just, keeping you from nodding off.
Yeah, this ties directly into concepts like retrieval practice and elaboration theory. When you just passively read or highlight, the information often stays very shallow in your memory. But when you actively do something with it, when you retrieve it, summarize it, explain it, manipulate it, you force your brain to build stronger, more numerous connections to that information.
Okay, think about retrieval practice. Every single time you successfully pull a piece of information out of your memory, like answering a quiz question, the neural pathway leading to that information gets physically stronger. It makes it easier to access next time.
So instead of just rereading a chapter, try pretending to teach the main concepts to someone else, an imaginary student, a friend, your dog, whatever. The mere act of organizing your thoughts clearly enough to explain it forces you to synthesize the material. And crucially, it instantly reveals what you don't actually understand yet, your knowledge gaps.
And that's where maybe quizzing yourself comes in, using flashcards, maybe those apps like Anki. It's not just testing, it's actually a study method.
Exactly. It is arguably the single best form of retrieval practice. Make your own questions. Other active methods. Create diagrams, flowcharts, mind maps. Visualizing how concepts link together engages different parts of your brain. Summarize chapters or sections in your own words, not just copying the author's phrasing. That ensures you've truly processed it. Use mnemonics, memory tricks. All these techniques basically force your mind to stay active and engaged with the material, making passive distraction far less likely and less tempting. You're working with the information. This has been incredibly helpful. Really a deep and actionable dive. We've kind of hit those 4 key pillars. Optimizing the physical machine sleep, exercise for BDNF, controlling the external world dedicated space, fighting that crazy 20-minute context switching cost.
Yeah, the big one.
Managing time effectively, like with the Pomodoro rhythm, and then training the internal mindfulness, positive intention, and crucially, active learning.
Yeah, that covers the core strategies. And I think the most important message now for anyone listening is about implementation. Don't feel like you have to do all of this perfectly starting tomorrow. That's overwhelming. Concentration is a skill, and like any skill, it improves incrementally with practice. Just start small. Pick one thing. Maybe commit to one healthier snack choice today instead of sugar. Or enforce that phone in another room rule for just your very next 25-minute study block. Every small, consistent effort really does build on itself. It creates compounding returns over time.
Okay, great final advice. Start small, be consistent. So since maximizing focus really boils down to minimizing stress and boosting mental clarity, especially right when you need it, let's leave you, our listener, with maybe a provocative thought to chew on. If you could only implement one change right now, today, either doing 15 minutes of brisk exercise to get that BDNF boost, or are doing just 5 minutes of focused breath meditation to calm that default mode network, which single action do you think would give you the most immediate, the strongest mental clarity boost for your very next study session? Figure that out for yourself and start there.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.